But don't be ashamed if you get confused when you talk to your friends or you watch the news. They try to tell you where it all went wrong. Now you don't need to argue, just sing this song. It was rich people stacking the deck, rich people with big fat checks, rich people, they're having a ball, rich people been us all.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Eat the Rich. I am Emily Walsh, and I am here with my co-host and husband, who did not put himself on Do Not Disturb, Danny Moss.
Hey.
It is Yeet After Dark.
It is the darkest of the dark. We're
just
here,
to
baby.
give a beverage baby update. Baby is asleep, but it took a lot of effort.
Yeah.
She was not feeling it.
We thought we were going to have to deal with the Knicks game tonight, but we didn't because Knicks in 5, baby. Knicks in 5.
However, she wanted a rematch, I guess.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
guess.
She was fired up, but she
Yeah.
did learn how to high five today. So
Yeah, that was really cool.
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and so
She's
now
a
she can't
genius,
sleep.
and she can't sleep.
Yeah.
And we're having whiskey because it's 10 p.m. on Monday night. And you guys, this will come out sometime on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Sorry about last week.
Yeah, really sorry.
Our
It
child
was-
turned 1.
Yeah,
Things
she
happen.
turned 1. We had a really lovely birthday party. It did take a lot of planning, and my work has decided to go fully off the rails.
Yeah.
So
So
here we are.
Here we are. And if you guys are the type of people that we don't personally know, because some of you are just people we know, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, we love you.
But if you're new to the show, or if you're just like a cool, fun listener from somewhere far away, and you're like, man, it seems like they really put in a lot of effort to this show. They seem so sleepy, but they still make it for us. Tell a friend.
Yeah,
Post
let 'em know.
Make a review.
Let 'em know.
Do something, you know? 'Cause
Yeah, which we've been seeing some good numbers lately.
Yeah,
but,
no, we're
you know,
on the upswing, but
And
I can
so-
always beg. I can
Yeah,
always
yeah,
be out here
for
in
sure.
these streets asking
In
for
these
more
streets.
support.
I'm feeling extra dulcet.
I know. Well,
at the moment because I'm
panicked
sleepy.
that. Yeah. First of all, we're sleepy. Second of all, I don't want to get so worked up that I wake the baby up because then
Right, yeah.
this episode will end and
Yeah,
I
so
will
we're just
die.
gonna kind of talk down
So
here
we're
in this
doing
low
80s radio
Yeah, we're
voice.
exactly. We're the
This one's going
the
out
cool
to you,
jazz,
Frankie, and it's
late
called "Please Sleep Till the Morning."
late night slumber bunnies over
And
here.
by morning, I mean past 5 a.m.
That would be great.
This one's going out to my baby,
Ba-ba-ba-bow.
the baby. But yeah, what's happening?
Okay, so you remember what we were talking about, right?
Henrietta Lacks.
Yeah, I'm glad you remember because I forgot
Yeah,
there for a second.
You
but
did.
Yeah,
That's not great.
not great.
This is
Just
episode 4
kidding.
of 16.
4 of 16. No, I
Perfect.
think it'll be. I think. Unfortunately, I don't think I got my my ducks in a row. The ducks are they're
loose.
wild. They're
You could
out
call 'em
there in
gooses.
them streets. So I think we got one more after this.
Also,
one, but
it is a whiskey episode, and also I didn't realize the ice maker was off, so we are using whiskey rocks, and it seems like we're more pretentious than we are. Someone gave them to probably Danny as a weird gift, and I use them occasionally. But we're doing whiskey
yeah,
/ our best.
we're doing whiskey / our best.
And I've
exactly.
had 3 coffees today, and they mean nothing.
They mean nothing, but oof, get ready. This is gonna be it's gonna
Upsetting.
be fun. Yeah.
Great. Cool.
So what do you remember? Let's do a little recap quick.
Her family just found out that her cells are still in the mix.
Yeah.
And that was the dramatic.
That was the dramatic end.
You did a little skit.
I
for
did
us.
do a little skit
Yeah.
at the end, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was just like a random friend of a friend that was like, "Oh hey, what's
I know
your name?"
those. Yeah.
Lax. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
And like, how much more do we need to really recap?
Yeah.
This lady
Well,
passed away at
yeah.
a very tragically early age. They stopped treating her. They use her cells to this day. There's
Yeah.
other people that some guy filled with cancer to be
yeah, there was
to do fun.
I called him the Nuremberger because he,
Yeah,
kind
no,
of breaking the
he's
Nuremberg code.
that old turkey burger. And,
yeah, his name was Chester Southam. We don't like him,
Yeah,
a Nazi by any other name at all.
still a Nazi.
Yeah. They also hid her family, like Henrietta's true identity for a long time, making up a
Correct.
pseudonym to kind of, shield her. For whose help, nobody really knows.
Just if you're doing something that you
weird
feel like
vibes.
you need to hide, it's probably not something you should be doing.
Yeah, there was human-animal hybrids. There were the mouse men there for a little bit. Everybody was worried about mouse men.
Which, again, I imagined as a furry ear in a petri dish.
Oh, yeah, with just like a flippy tail. Yeah, different. They made a high-security vault of all of the, immortal human cells over the time.
Yep.
But then they discovered that
Gila gets in everything.
Gila gets in everything
I
and
forgot
takes
about
over
that.
everything.
It's a rule. There's
Right.
peanut butter in my chocolate,
Yeah.
chocolate in my peanut butter type of thing.
Yeah, and definitely a lot of people in the family believe that Henrietta was getting back at them for not telling the family, which
Sure.
I agree with.
Let's do that. That's fun.
There's also one of the reporters that goes to interview the family gets in a huge car accident on his way to the family, and then later his house burns down, burning all of his notes. So he had to do it all over again. So
That's-
it's
that is
so
extra spite.
there might be a little
that's a spite
a little
sandwich.
Henrietta ghost kicking around. George Guy passed away of really aggressive pancreatic cancer.
Right, and he was like, just kidding, guys. I'm nice. You can have my pancreas.
Yeah. He did try to get some immortal cells made of his own thing, but
I think out of ego
doctor- I
and
think
not out
ego,
of
too.
kindness, based on the little I know.
But
about him.
the rest of it, he did sacrifice the last few months of his life were pretty excruciating. That being said, still not great guy.
Not great.
Not great.
Okay.
And then Henrietta's name finally makes it in a print, and then randomly by happenstance, the family finds out. So the source material for this series is The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot, written
Great.
in 2010.
Glad I know that. That part of it.
The
2010.
Skloot part.
2010.
Yeah.
That's normally when people look up a book, they definitely put in the copyright year.
Well, it's felt nice rolling off the tongue.
It's thorough. In this dulcet
Yeah, exactly.
night radio.
2010.
Eat after dark.
Read After Dark. All those night birds. What is that? Night birds are a different thing.
Night
birds
owls
for us are night owls. All
stay
those
up late.
sweet
Night birds
little-
are what I call bats
That's
because I'm
right.
afraid of bats because I had a Batman-like scenario happen to me in my youth. But we
Yes.
don't have time for that.
No, we don't. We only have time for sleep. But
No, we don't.
We
We
don't.
don't have time for that either.
Okay, so after talking to that researcher, Babette Lacks, which is the wife of Lawrence Lacks.
Which it's tough that an in-law has to break the news.
Yeah.
I would hate to have to go to your family and be like, hey, by the way.
Well, and she just ran home and was basically like, "Your mother's alive, sort of, kind of."
Oh, she biffed that.
Yeah, it was just
She
not great.
biffed that.
So Babette and Lawrence were stunned, as
Sure.
you would be, and pretty fearful because the news of the Tuskegee syphilis study had just leaked and was shut down, and also there's also a long history of rumors surrounding John Hopkins in the Black community. So nightmares of doctors coming in the night and taking unsuspecting Black people off the street to do medical testing on them, as a thing.
Yeah.
This kind of concept, this fear, is pretty common, and some of it is founded because, as we know, a lot of people were used for medical testing, and they were just like, "Oh, you're poor and you can't afford this medical treatment, so we're going to take whatever we can get out of you."
Yeah.
But there's a lot of other stuff that happened, and one part of the whole spirit of this goes all the way back to the times of slavery. So slave owners would spread rumors about evil spirits spreading disease and death outside of the plantation, basically using mythology as a weapon to keep
scare them into
everybody,
staying.
to keep people inside and keep them from trying to escape. So not only would they be viciously punished if they tried to escape, they were also
Scared.
there were hungry, angry spirits out there that were going to get them, and some of that was actually taken from the original cultures, but again, really morphed in a kind of sick and evil way.
This is a real tangent. Will you come with me?
Sure.
So when I used to work on scare attractions and paint scenery for fancy haunted houses, we spent a month in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and
Okay.
half of the scary things were American scary things,
Yeah.
The guy from Freddy and
Sure.
Nightmare on Elm Street, and then half of them were Malaysian folk monsters.
Okay.
And one of the rooms was genuinely terrifying because you walked in and it was probably 50 mummies all mummied up,
Yeah.
completely still.
Yeah.
And you walk in and you can tell that they're fake.
Uh-huh.
And you kind of are like, what's going to happen? And you stand there for maybe 30 full seconds and then one mummy just goes like to the side,
Nope.
and you're like,
That's a nope. That's a nope for me.
and that I didn't have to be Malaysian to be terrified of that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So similar. I guess. Similar. They told slaves that there were also like night doctors out there waiting to capture them and do like crazy scientific testing on them.
Why? And maybe you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Did they want them to be afraid of doctors at the time, or just again a way to
Maybe,
keep them on the land?
I'm not sure. I mean, but a lot of it was definitely keep them on the land. But then, maybe it's like not trusting outside institutions. I'm not 100% sure. But something that did happen is to like, some slave owners would put on like white
outfit?
sheets.
Sure.
And wear them around to act as either doctors and or spirits. And then later, that basically became the white hooded cloaks of the KKK.
Sure.
So that's kind of where some of the roots of that happened.
This whole story is a real
There's
bummer.
There's some dark stuff in the history of medicine, but also
exploitative medicine.
And slavery. Turns out not great, pretty bad. So also beyond all of that, many doctors, like legitimate doctors, not rumors to keep people from
spirits,
from freedom. Actual doctors would test new experimental drugs on slaves and operating on them, even though sometimes nothing was wrong with them,
just
and
to see.
Sometimes without anesthetic. So
there still is a large, I think we've spoken about it, misconception that black people experience less pain than white people, and that is not true.
Not true.
And
not true. And
insane.
Yeah, and kind of some evil shit.
Yes.
But there's like just a lot of racism that's still kind of built into, really everything. But the medical community.
That's really just cooked into every layer of the fabric of our lives.
Yeah.
But especially medicine.
Yeah, not good. Really just examine your preconceptions.
Yeah.
If you could, please.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Think about that.
So jump forward a few decades, and as the Great Migration north was happening, research hospitals like John Hopkins were offering money for corpses to allow doctors to do autopsies and learn about human anatomy.
Is that leading to murder? Grave digging?
Grave digging. Sure. A lot of grave digging. And also maybe murder, but
occasional.
They're basically like a dark underground industry appeared, providing southern black bodies to northern hospitals and medical schools.
My God.
So like
everything is bad.
Yeah. Many families had a rule that no children could go anywhere near John Hopkins after dark for fear that they would be snatched off the street and used for terrifying experiments. So some of it is definitely based on
seems very based in reality,
the mythology, but a lot of it is based on like, there's some bad stuff going on there. I mean, a lot of that period in medicine when people were like, oh, we need to actually look at organs in a way that we hadn't done before, like all over Europe and England and stuff like that. There's so much history of like, body snatching and like grave robbing and stuff
and
like that.
Great, and just like fresh grave robbing.
Yeah.
Like if they see a fresh grave, they're like, let me get in
there.
there.
Let me get in there and then take it over to these doctors who are going to pay me money for this thing. And then,
like Deacon Brody.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that, audience?
That
it's a bar we used to go to, but also a guy from Scotland who... He did that, right? Did I invent that? Or he was a lock guy?
He was the lock guy, but there was another guy. There was like a duo of criminals in Edinburgh that on the same walking tour that we learned more about Deacon Brody. We learned about that guy. I don't remember their names, but they were definitely grave robbing.
They were like the basis for Jekyll and Hyde, I believe. Or maybe I'm just...
No, that Deacon Brody was the basis for Jekyll and Hyde. So you're definitely, you got it all.
True facts,
you got it all in there.
And then I put them in a blender.
Night
Heat after dark.
Heat after dark, baby. So most black families believe that the reason that John Hopkins was built in a poor black neighborhood in Baltimore was not to help the needy, but instead to give them easy access to black test subjects.
That feels correct.
Yeah. So John Hopkins originally, just like to give context to all of this, with again the caveat that like even though the intentions were good, the racism of doctors and later kind of erased some of those basic good intentions. So John Hopkins Hospital was originally founded in 1873. The man who founded it grew up on a tobacco plantation in Maryland. As he was growing up, his father actually freed the slaves on the plantation nearly 60 years before the Emancipation Proclamation. So
Wow.
ahead of his time, again, still was using slaves.
Sure.
But
yeah.
This does not feel like well, they're gonna get freed anyway, so I better let them go.
60
This
years
was
is pretty significant.
the error of his ways kind of thing. So,
Turns out they're people.
oh, wow. Oh, boy. So John Hopkins eventually made large sums of money working as a banker and a grocer. He never married, so he had no heirs. So eventually he donated $7 million to build a medical school and charity hospital, stating that the express purpose of the hospital was to help those who otherwise could not get care without regard to sex, age, or race.
Okay. Thank you, John.
So the only patients that were actually charged were those who could easily afford it. And they would use that money to help fund their charity.
But also remember, medical care at that time was basically free. My grandmother, when she gave birth to my uncle, who was in his 70s, but still, when she gave birth to him, her doctor was like, you know what? That was a tough one. Why don't you save the money, buy yourself a nice hat? So that
Wow.
means that A, babies were the same cost as hats.
Yeah, right.
And B, it seems like maybe a
Well,
really rough
nice
delivery.
hats.
Nice hats.
Nice hats.
Buy yourself a nice hat.
Go buy yourself a nice hat. Weird. A little patronizing, but I guess
Hey, you
different
know,
time.
free is free, you know?
So the intention of the hospital was good, but just because it started there,
Of course,
did not.
doesn't mean it's not
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
get ruined.
So as we talked about, researchers began seeing it as their right to kind of do whatever research they wanted or take whatever samples they wanted from the poor, kind of in exchange for medical care. One John Hopkins doctor took more than 7,000 blood samples from neighborhood children, mostly black, looking for a genetic predisposition for criminal activity. So like eugenic shit.
Boy.
Yeah.
I was until you said that, I was like, blood sample, is that so bad? Maybe they got a cookie. Like,
but
what
he was
and
like, I need to make sure
I'm
that
gonna
everybody knows.
Figure out
Yeah.
why
So,
I don't like you
no.
based on your blood.
No, some evil shit there. And of course, the doctor also never got any consent. Like, I'm not sure how we got them to donate the blood, but
Cookies, probably.
probably cookies.
That's
So
why I give blood to still.
true. Got to get them Lorna Doones. So in the late 1990s, it was discovered that some researchers were exposing children to lead in a study looking for like lead abatement techniques. So all the children in the study were black, and at least one child developed lead poisoning. It's actually kind of nuts because basically researchers went into apartments and contaminated them with lead and then encouraged landlords to rent them out to families with children so they could see the effects.
See
It's
that
kind of nuts. And this is like 1990.
The exact opposite happened to me in 2004,
Okay.
which is only 14 years later, where I moved into my college apartment and they made me sign a thing
Oh.
that said if I got pregnant, I would tell them. Because the lead was low enough that apparently my drunk 21-year-old butt
Yeah.
was fine. But
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I had a baby, they would not be fine.
Right. And they were like, lady, just don't lick the
Just
paint.
let
Just
us
leave it
know and don't
alone."
eat the paint. And I was like, girl, I'll sign whatever. I'm ready for this apartment.
Oh, man.
I guess that was 2006, but still.
Yeah. Lead. So, of course, the biggest example from John Hopkins, at least nowadays, the most well-known is, of course, the Henrietta Lacks
Sure.
story that we're talking about. So,
Would you look at that?
would you look at that? So, the family was just now learning about like how important their mother was in medicine and research and science and all this stuff. And they could not afford healthcare of their own. So a lot of them had some ailments. Some of them because, you know, their parents were cousins, which was not ideal. But a lot of it, you know, was just because they're
People in
you know,
America trying to make a living.
people in America, and especially like black families are often the communities that they can afford to live in and the communities that they're allowed to live in because of redlining and all that other stuff are often places where the most pollution happens. So like
Right.
I'd like to know whether, because the black community has a high instances of asthma, but I believe a lot of that is caused,
Environmental.
is not so much genetic as it is the fact that the places where they're living are very polluted. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, so, not good. Okay, so while the family was like reeling from the revelations about Henrietta's pseudo-immortality, the scientific community was still trying to figure out what to do about their whole HeLa contamination problem. They were like, we got to figure out whether or not HeLa is actually in it. We need more information. So a scientist realized that if they got samples from Henrietta's immediate family, preferably her husband and her children, they could create a full map of Henrietta's like genome in order to use that to more conclusively determine whether or not things had been contaminated.
Okay.
So a man named Victor McCusick was a prominent geneticist at the time and had been one of the first people to like publish Henrietta's name. He said that he could help with the gathering samples. So he worked at John Hopkins, where Day and the kids were still patients, so he had access to all of their medical records, so he knew where they lived. And basically,
is this like the 70s or 80s? What decade is this all happening in?
Yeah, this is the 70s. He sent one of his like postdoctoral fellows, somebody that was learning under him, named Susan Chu, to collect the samples. And she was not told to really inform the family much about what the purpose of the study was, or really kind of anything. And when she got back to Baltimore, she called Day immediately. The way Day remembers this conversation, they called and told him that part of his wife was still alive and that they'd been doing experiments with her. And they wanted to come and test him and his children to see if any of them had the same cancer that Henrietta did.
What are you doing when you get that phone call?
Hey. You're like...
Your wife that you thought was dead 20 years ago.
Yeah.
We're not going to really explain that, yes, she's still dead. We just have some cells.
There's just some cells.
Because that first initial sentence, I'm like, you've kept her in a closet? What are you talking about?
What is happening? Well, and that's the thing is that, so we'll talk about a lot about Deborah, one of Henrietta's daughters, who like is the most like motivated and dedicated to figuring out what happened to her mother.
Yeah.
And, but she like is constantly vacillating between a state of like complete fear and then like really wanting to know more. So she keeps like hearing things about her mother, like, oh, she was used in, going to space, curing polio, the atomic bomb. And in her head, she's not picturing just like some cells in a petri dish. She's like thinking of her mother being blown up by a bomb or shot into space.
Wow. I would love to like dive deeper into that in a way that I don't think I can, because I don't know this woman, but I've talked. Well, the reason being, I've talked to a lot of people, friends, and just anytime I get into a dead parent conversation with somebody who lost their parent as a child, I've talked to 3 or 4 people that have had dreams, including myself, where that parent is alive.
Oh.
And like just was left, quote unquote. And even when my dad passed away, I remember pretending he had left to like make it easier, to be like, he's on a business trip. He'll I just have to live today. Like,
you've had some bad dreams where you're like, I had a dream that my dad had a secret family. And he just,
I have that dream a fair amount. Yeah. Or that he's like, no, I left on purpose. I'm sorry.
Oh,
and but I know many people that have had a similar dream that had good, and I had a good relationship. Like I'm saying, they all had like no reason to dream that, and they did. So I'm just like curious if it's just partially, if it is specific to this situation, or if it's partially just lost parent, like can't wrap your, like, what, I wonder what age she was. Like, can she just not wrap her head around it?
And like she had a hard life. Yeah. So like all the children kind of had a pretty hard upbringing, because Day he kind of checked out a lot once once Henrietta passed, and eventually Bobette came in, and like other people kind of came in and kind of helped raise the kids the rest of the way. But like, Joe had a lot of anger issues.
That was the son?
The one of the sons, and he got into a lot of fights. He like stabbed somebody, then like eventually got out of jail, and then went into the army, but then was discharged. Or no, I think he went into the army before he ended up killing the guy. But Joe was actually the son who Henrietta was pregnant with when she like had the cancer.
Gotcha.
So like, they don't know whether some of that affected his kind of mentality in life. But either way, I think that anger is not an unreasonable response to all of
not
this.
at all.
Because they were very young when it happened. But eventually, he got in the army and then he was discharged because of his anger. And then he got out and he stabbed somebody and went to jail and then got back out. And like the author and him eventually formed a relationship that was kind of built on more trust, but he was incredible, like a very hard critic of her and did not trust her at all. Deborah, like she was sexually assaulted during while she was young by one of the family neighbor friends and married somebody to get out of that, but that guy was also abusive. And then so like she's got a lot of things going on that like, and I think I don't really know because I don't really know this woman either, but I think partially out of like escapism, but partially out of like really wanting to know her parents. She really fixates. She goes back and forth between like wanting to know as much as possible and then not wanting
and
to
being
know
like,
anything.
I can't do this.
Yeah, exactly. And like to the point where some reporters come and like some news gets out and things happen where she learns stuff, but she gets so excited that like she almost has a heart attack a couple of times.
My God.
And but her and this is the person that really works directly with the author a lot, and like they're kind of a team in figuring out everything about Henrietta, and but it's constantly day to day. It's not, she's not bipolar, but it is a similar. It's like a PTSD response of like she's every now and then the author would say something and Deborah would just kind of snap and be like, "Are you here? Who sent you here?
Yeah, why
Who's
are you
paying
here?"
you? Or like you're trying to kind of take more from the family." And it was just it's I don't know, that I really feel for this woman, and she like, oh boy, she was supposed to speak at a like this huge like kind of conference, a medical conference that was commemorating Henrietta Lacks and like her contribution, and she was going to go speak there, and then the 9/11 happened.
Oh my God.
So that got canceled.
Always 9/11.
And she ended up passing away before like being able to like they rescheduled this whole thing. So like, but
I am sweaty and unhappy.
yeah. Deborah's it's a tough story on her end, but she's, she really just wants to know her mother because she never really she was too young when she passed away to really know her, and like she gets little pieces and learns more about her, and I don't know. It's just a crazy story. Yeah. It's just a tough world, and it like the her dying young is one thing, but the way that now she's immortal and all of this other stuff, and the
it's
like
confusing.
kind of magical mysticism because she doesn't know who to trust anymore. Because also you hear about these things and all of the like myths of evil doctors coming to that becomes so real that you're like, I don't know what truth is.
I mean, it is real. They lied to them.
Yeah.
Like whatever.
Yeah.
Regardless of the levels of deception, they were doctors who lied and did something without consent. So she has a great reason to be 100%.
So, okay, back to this postdoctorate fellow came by to be like, hey, we need your blood.
Yeah.
And didn't really tell them why. And so Day remembers it as them being like, hey, we want to make sure that they don't have the same cancer as Henrietta does. But that test was actually impossible at the time. Like, I don't even know that they could do that now.
Now, yeah.
And the thing is, Dr. Susan Shu was new to America. English was not her first language. And she her strongest English was in like the scientific jargon of her. So she basically probably said a lot of very big words to him. He did not really understand them, and what he got was like they're coming to test for cancer, and no one ever like disabused them of that idea. So
why would they?
They thought, and Deborah especially, she was like, my mother died at 30. I'm almost 30. They're about to tell me I have cancer, and then like I'm gonna leave my
that
kids.
I'm also gonna die.
And I'm gonna die immediately. And so she was like terrified. So like they took this one test from everybody, and then she went back to be like, hey, what are the results? And they were like, oh, would you like to give more blood samples? And she was like, okay, cool. So she met that doctor who was in charge of all this, all of this stuff, Victor. What the heck's his name?
Makuzik.
Yeah, Victor Makuzik. and he was kind of nuts because he like basically she asked him a bunch of questions, you know, like what happened to my mother, also like am I going to die, what has she actually done for medicine, and he sat her down and just gave her like the fairy tale story of like how they cured polio and how she went to space and how all this other stuff. And like he thought he was being comforting, but again, she envisioned all of this stuff as like her actual mother being shot into space.
Yeah,
and,
we
like,
kidnapped
getting
her,
these illnesses,
took her
forever.
out of your childhood home,
Yeah.
and tortured her, basically.
Is kind of the way that she kind of
Heard all that.
internalized a lot of it. And then at the end, she was like asked some more questions, and he was like clearly like, I don't have any more time.
I'm
to give
good.
You. So he
Yeah.
handed her a book that he like had edited, and that like helped write. That was about like genetics and also included a lot of stuff about Gila, but just like autographed it and was like, this will tell you everything you need to know.
No. All of these people need therapy.
Yeah, 1,000%. It did have a picture, like the one kind of big picture that people kind of know that is Henrietta Lacks was in this book. But also like nobody knows how they got that picture because like the family didn't give it to them.
Even
they didn't give them consent to
weirder.
publish that picture.
Even weirder.
And like, you know, it could have been, they think that maybe the doctor asked Henrietta to give them a picture that they put in the records, perhaps. But also it's just very strange because other than like in this file, nobody had that picture.
Also, again, the 40s and 50s, it's not a time where you're like, oh, I got doubles. I'll just bring you this snapshot from my party. Young people don't even know the phrase, I got doubles. Do you know that phrase?
As in when you got them exposed,
you got
dupes. Yeah.
When I was in high school, you'd like want people to get doubles so that if they took a really good picture of you,
you could
like trade.
Yeah.
I got doubles.
I got doubles.
To me, that was like a flex
It costs
of
more, right?
money.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
a flex. I couldn't
exactly.
always get the doubles.
Yeah. But there's some people that were just like, oh, I got triples. I don't think you could get
You
triples.
can't get triples. Yeah.
So in that book, alongside of his like very elaborate autograph to be like, you're going to want this autographed. He also wrote a phone number to be like, hey, if you guys need to donate any more blood to science, why don't you just, give that phone number a call?
If you're looking to get rid of anything in your body, I'll take it.
Yep.
Forever.
So later when the author discussed this misunderstanding with Susan Chu, Susan felt really bad about the misunderstanding. And she was like, oh, I thought they knew the whole time. I thought, because the thing is about all of these scientists, especially the ones that are like the geneticists are not in the field of like
Patient
immortal
dealing
cells,
sure.
cell culturing. So they're just like, oh, this is famous. Everybody knows about this, including these people that we've hit it from
and
for a
it's
while.
like, no,
And
they don't.
so they just assumed a base level of knowledge that these people didn't have.
That most people don't have.
Most people don't have. I mean, now people who listen to this podcast have it.
Sure, but did we have it before this? No.
The work that McCusick and Susan Chu did became pretty famous, and she was incredibly thankful for the family's donations. But then also she kind of ruined it by at the end being like, oh, hey, if you see them again, just let them know that if they want to donate some more blood, we have better technology, so we'd learn even more. But it's like this whole thing, again, it was important that they got this genome so that they could kind of figure out all this other stuff so that they could sort the cell cultures out. But these scientists were writing papers, they're like have a lot more notoriety. Some people becoming famous. It also saved a bunch of money that of these companies that were having, doing science better and whatever. And they got it by inadvertently misleading the family again. Like collecting these samples kind of under false pretenses. Whether they knew it or not, it was still like that's what happened.
Yeah.
And then now they're on top of all that, they're like, oh, and do you want to give us more of your samples that we have misused and kind of like profited off of that you haven't got a dime from?
Yeah.
Even it just feels weird to me. As the family learned more and more about like what Gila was, what it was used for, how they took the initial samples, the more they distrusted both the scientists and the doctors. They were just like, I don't know, you guys are. Everything feels pretty sus.
Kind
So
of full of it.
as public interest grew in this phenomenon of Gila, more and more people reached out to the family for comment. So now that people knew who Henrietta Lacks was, they're now like reporters start popping up out of nowhere to be like, tell me more about this lady. And they're like, we don't know that much more than you do at this point. This is the reporter I was talking about before. His name was Michael Rogers. He was working for Rolling Stones, and he was coming in to do an article on Gila and Henrietta Lacks. So as Rogers asked them about their mother, he realized how little the family truly knew about Gila and about the science being done. So he started providing as much information as he could, other articles that were written. He'd also just kind of tell them what he knew.
Yeah, he's like, I've been researching. I can explain what I can explain.
And so when the family first learned about the concept of Gila, most of them, other than Deb was pretty shook up just generally, but everyone else was really didn't kind of mind. They were like, oh, well, as long as they're doing good stuff with it,
right?
It's fine. I mean,
I wish we would have known.
Yeah, but it's fine.
Cure polio.
But after Rogers article was released, the family kind of first realized that there was like a massive multi-million-dollar industry built around manufacturing their cells and stuff, and they can't afford going to the doctor. So the sons were pretty outraged and believed that they were owed a cut of this, since it did come from their mother. So they started creating handouts, flyers saying that John Hopkins owed them millions of dollars and passing them out to as many people as they could. They were thinking of suing John Hopkins in order to get what they were due, but because George Guy had basically given away most of the samples and never actually patented the cells, John Hopkins didn't make that much money from Gila. They were just mad at the wrong people. Yeah, the massive factories that were reproducing it for a profit definitely did. And the debate over ownership of genetic material was still very much in its infancy. So at that time, that lawsuit would have been pretty difficult. But if they had known more about the topic or had the money to hire a real lawyer, they probably would have had a case for a pretty big breach in privacy made by Victor McCusick in his lab, because they basically did the genetic screening and then printed out Henrietta's name and their kids and their full genome.
Wow.
Which back then there was no HIPAA, but if they had done that today,
that would have been really.
It would have been a
huge
$250,000 fine and 10 years in prison.
Wow.
But they were just look what we figured out, and So different, but they still even though the actual HIPAA wasn't really created until 2006, which I didn't realize.
Definitely didn't know that.
It's kind of crazy.
Definitely didn't know that. That's crazy.
And then another one in 2008 that basically says that you can't discriminate hiring practices based on genetic makeup. So
if somebody's dying or something,
maybe. But I also think various syndromes or things like that. Or I don't think you can be I'm firing you because I found out that you have this condition or whatever. So that's the giving out genetic information is becoming not good. And but
again, if you feel like you have to hide something, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, probably shouldn't be doing it. So legal precedent was finally being made on the subject of the idea of ownership over your own genetic material. This time all the way out in California with a man named John Moore. A couple of differences. One, he was a white man. Two,
a white man.
He knew all about the doctor using his cells and what they were doing with it. And he actually had money to hire a lawyer.
Huge differences.
A lot of differences there. Because the Lacks family, it's just now sort of figuring it out. And they're mad, but they haven't had time to understand the scope of what's going on. And I think if you were just learning about it, it'd be really hard to fully understand how massive this was.
I just want to keep reiterating, they're learning about this before the internet.
Yeah.
So they cannot just say, I learned these keywords, I learned this kind of fact, I'm going to look up the Wikipedia and get a lay of the land. It's
they're flipping through a Dewey Decimal System.
They could maybe go to the library and maybe find something.
Yeah.
If the librarian was being helpful. They truly are just listening to rumors.
Yeah.
And things that people tell them when they're in a moment of emotional. When you hear stats or facts, when you're emotionally charged, you absorb it less. And these people, this is obviously emotional for them. Yeah. It's their freaking mother. So it's yeah.
Oof, tough.
I'm
So
mad, but I'm also sleepy. It's confusing.
it's pretty confusing. Okay, so John Moore. It was the mid 1970s. He was a man working as a surveyor on the Alaska pipeline, and he went to the doctor. His gums were bleeding, his belly was swollen, and he had bruises covering his entire body. Apparently, it turns out he had a very rare type of cancer called hairy cell leukemia. A cancer of the spleen where the body is producing malignant blood cells and filling the man's spleen until it bulged near to bursting.
Oh, boy.
So Moore eventually made it to UCLA where he met a doctor named David Gold. Gold immediately recommended that his spleen be removed. Moore agreed and signed a consent form allowing the hospital to dispose of any severed tissue or member by cremation. They did not do that, however.
They kept that big old spleen, didn't
They sure did. So a normal spleen weighs less than a pound. Any idea on how much John Moore's spleen weighed?
It normally weighs 1 pound?
Like less than a pound. 22
Nope.
pounds.
No, that's
a lot
twins.
of spleen.
That's triplets.
It's a lot of spleen.
It's triplets.
So after the surgery, Moore went back to his life.
Especially considering you can live without your spleen.
Yeah.
That's so big.
That's big. Which makes sense why I was like, belly's
That
swollen.
weighs more than Frankie does now.
Yeah.
Our 1-year-old child.
Yeah. And she's
So
big.
she's not small.
No.
That's
So
crazy.
that makes sense of the bulged belly. Like I was like, why is the belly bulging? And I was like, big spleen.
Because it's full of spleen.
Big spleen.
It's got a Frankie spleen.
So after the surgery, Moore went back to his life. He eventually moved to Seattle, becoming an oyster salesman. So
For him.
he was
that
doing all
sounds
right.
nice.
So every few months, though, he would fly back to LA to do more follow-up exams with Gold. At first, Moore thought they were just like routine checkups to make sure that the cancer didn't come back. But then after like a couple of years of going back and forth from Seattle to LA, Moore began to wonder why he couldn't just do these follow-ups a little closer to home.
Yeah, that's a big trip.
So when Moore brought up the idea, the doctor immediately offered to pay for his flights and put him up in a hotel room at like
Red
a fancy
flag.
hotel,
Red
which is
flag.
suspicious. So
What, are you obsessed with me? Like
pretty
that's-
obsessed, yeah. But why? Very good question. So during one of these routine follow-ups in 1983, 7 years after his surgery, he received a new odd consent form. So the form asked if he was willing to give UCLA all rights to a cell line created from his blood/bone marrow obtained during these visits. Because he was giving samples of like blood, bone marrow, and semen every single time he went.
What was the semen for?
I don't know, red herring maybe?
Personal use?
I don't know.
What are we doing?
I don't know. So not wanting to rock the boat in case the doctor would like refuse care after that, he circled yes on the consent form. But then the next visit came around and he received the same consent form. So he asked Gold directly if any of the work that they were doing with him had commercial value.
Like, hey, what's
Like,
up?
why am I signing this consent form? This is very
Which
strange.
I would never know to ask that.
Right.
I would never. And this conversation, because I am a selfish person, in my brain, I was like, I wonder where my elbow is. Like, I wonder what
Yeah.
they did with those bones.
Yeah,
Have you
'cause-
ever had anything removed?
Tonsils? Adenoids?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't
I
think.
just remember being like, I wonder where those went.
Yeah, because you grew some bonus bone.
I did. They took that too.
Yeah.
There's
Are
like
you in a
marble.
textbook?
I thought I was in a textbook.
Yeah.
I'm in a PowerPoint lecture.
Okay.
That happens every semester.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe it'll be in a book eventually.
Yeah, we'll see.
But
God willing.
I
you know?
grew a little marble. They took that too.
Yeah, they took
and
it.
neither, I don't think, did they ask me if I wanted to keep it. But again, I just sign things.
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But what are they
I'd say-
doing with it, do you think?
I don't know. Maybe making little figurines?
Probably that's just
Dice?
carving it.
Yeah. Playing
I don't-
CeeLo?
There's not that much bone.
After asking him kind of directly,
Does it have commercial value?
it does have commercial value. The doctor said no and then kind of evaded the question. So even more suspicious, Moore circled no this time on the consent form. And then after the appointment, Moore went home. And later that day, he received multiple calls from the doctor telling him that he would need to come back and fix the consent form because he clearly made a mistake.
He
clearly made a mistake. And Moore was like, I'm too busy. I got to go fly back to Seattle. So that's a no. A few days later, the same form showed up in his mail at his house with a little like Post-it note on it that was like, circle here where it says,
this is where
totally
we wanted
fine.
You to sign.
Which just like, thou doth,
You made a
insist
mistake,
too much.
but it's okay.
It's okay.
We have your back.
So Moore ignored the form, and then a few weeks later, he got a very angry letter from the doctor that was basically like, hey, quit jerking me around. Sign the dang form that I...
having bodily autonomy.
What is wrong with you?
I want my stuff, and by stuff, I mean your giant spleen.
So Moore had enough at this point and decided to hire a lawyer who quickly learned something very interesting. It turns out the doctor had spent the last 7 years developing and marketing a cell line he called Mo.
More.
I guess after Moore. Apparently, Moore was not a big fan of being turned into just Mo. He was like, totally feels very dehumanizing, and I'm very angry about this as a concept, which I agree.
I get it.
Yeah. So a few weeks before Gold had given Moore the first of the new consent form, he had secretly filed a patent on Moore's cells and some very valuable proteins that those cells produced. So while retaining the rights to Moore's cells, the doctor had entered into an agreement with a biotech company, giving him stocks and financing worth more than $3.5 million to commercially develop and scientifically investigate the cell line. So the commercial value of that cell line was estimated, like going on Shark Tank, your valuation, $3 billion.
In the
like
80s?
The 80s, yeah, or like late 70s.
I thought you said 1983.
No, you're right. Yeah, in the 80s. So before 1980, biological products were not considered patentable. Like just,
right.
And the cell lines, like genetically modified things, not patentable. The Supreme Court ruled in a case called Diamond v. Charabarty, I think, Charabarty. A General Electric scientist had filed for a patent for a bacteria he developed designed to consume oil and help with industrial spills.
That's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. So his patent was denied because at the time, no living organism could be patented. So, however, Chakrabarty's lawyers stated that since the bacteria were not naturally occurring and would not exist without Chakrabarty's intervention, they should be able to patent it as his own invention. So eventually the Supreme Court agreed. This case was actually kind of huge for scientists just everywhere because it opened up the ability to patent things like genetically engineered plants and animals, and also cell lines, like immortal cell lines.
So. And square watermelons.
And square watermelons, yes. Or watermelons in the shape of Frankenstein's.
Is that a thing?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what?
Yeah, apparently. Okay, so apparently you didn't hear this conversation that Michelle and I had during the Knicks game, but you can grow zucchini or pumpkins or anything inside of a mold. And then crack it open.
I did hear you making jokes about her hair, and I got confused, and I was sleepy and loud.
You can grow it inside a little, the negative of a Frankenstein face, and then you'll have a pumpkin that looks like Frankenstein.
Oh, but not a watermelon.
Oh, you could probably do a watermelon too, or cucumbers.
Probably, but do we know?
We don't know. We can find out.
Let's do
summertime.
An experiment.
I think that's when watermelons grow. I don't know, but it's time for science. Watermelon science. So most cell lines not actually worth patenting. Moore's, however, were pretty exceptional. Worth $3 billion.
Yeah,
so,
sounds like it.
They produced rare proteins used to help treat infections as well as cancer.
Again, something he would probably be willing to help with if they were like, "Hey, this is helping people," but you got to compensate. You got
to compensate it, and you don't even have to give them all of the money.
No,
just give them a little piece.
Something.
Yeah, you're taking parts of their body. Come on, what are we doing here? So if you've got $3 billion. It means you have you could have a line item.
Cut off a slice.
Just get some, do a little surgery on that budget
amount of money,
and then give them a little bit.
A little bit.
So Apparently his cells also had a rare virus that was a distant cousin to the HIV virus, and scientists were hoping to use the weaker form to help create a vaccine and cure for
Another
HIV.
great reason to use them. Just again,
Yeah,
ask.
and quit being sus about it, because he
Being
like
a weirdo.
being sneaky and patenting something that's sort of yours but not really yours. Like, come
Yeah.
on. 3 equal parts here. So if Moore had known how valuable his cells were, he could have approached one of these pharmaceutical companies and made a deal to provide samples himself, and they would have paid large sums of money for that ability to do that. So now that Gold had patented his cells, however, it became much more difficult. There was a man named Ted Slaven who had done a very similar thing a few years earlier. He was like a hemophiliac. He like,
Can't stop bleeding?
He can't
Yeah.
stop bleeding. And required very frequent blood transfusions, because at the time that was how they treated it, was just by giving you blood.
Put more in there.
Yeah, and that had the binding agents just in it. However, they also were not that great at testing the blood for like sexually
Bad
transmitted
stuff.
diseases.
Yeah.
So he got hepatitis B a lot.
Oh.
A lot of hepatitis B this
I
guy
didn't know
got.
you could get that in a quantity. I thought you just had
I
it
didn't
or
either.
didn't have it.
But apparently he kept like getting it and then kind of getting over it for the most part, getting it in, and then like getting another dose of more.
Wow.
Yeah, so not great. Eventually, a hepatitis antigen test was created, and a doctor tested Slaven's blood and found just off the charts amount of like Hep B antibodies. Just a wild amount of like, it just did not make sense how
Yeah.
many antibodies he had. So his doctor, instead of hiding that information and profiting off of it himself, actually told Slaven that his blood would be very valuable to drug companies. So Slaven approached a few of these companies, set up a deal to sell a steady supply of blood for their testing and vaccine development. He also partnered with a scientist trying to cure hepatitis, offering free use of his blood and cells to help develop a cure that eventually did lead to a hepatitis vaccine.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Frankie
I think.
just got her hepatitis vaccine.
Yeah,
Thanks, guy.
thanks, Ted
Ted.
Slaven. So Slaven realized he probably wasn't the only person to have valuable like blood or other genetic material. So he sought out other people with similar conditions, eventually forming a company called Essential Biologicals, all with like people that had
Interesting
cells worth.
cell value.
So if it wasn't for Gold's patent, Moore could have also set up a similar deal with the pharmaceuticals company.
It's crazy that you can patent organic material that isn't your
Isn't
own.
yours, yeah.
Yeah.
And like back then, there were no laws or even standards that meant that you had to like inform the person who who the cells belong to, which is kind
Yeah.
of nuts. So that's about to change, sort of. Moore had only one real option. He had to take the doctor and UCLA to court for deceiving him and using his body in research without his consent.
Sure.
He also claimed property rights over his tissue and sued Gold for stealing them, becoming the first person to stake a legal claim over his own tissues and sue for profits and damages. So the first judge overseeing Moore's case eventually threw out the case, saying that, he didn't own the property. He discarded it. It was not. He had no leg to stand on. The doctor or the judge actually cited the fact that the HeLa cells, that like nobody had come forward to claim monetary remuneration for the HeLa cells. He was like, well, if they don't want money, it's clear
Then
that
you
people
don't-
just
don't need money.
Don't need money and medical advances to happen.
And it's
so.
not at all that they didn't know they had the cells.
Yeah,
and then
exactly. Didn't know they were valuable.
Earn money from them. Yeah.
So Moore appealed multiple times, and then in 1988, a California Court of Appeals ruled in his favor. Gold then appealed again, and then he won, and it went kind of back and forth until it went all the way up to the Supreme Court of California. The court said that no matter how this sucks, and I do think that more rulings have come out since then, but the California Supreme Court was the final kind of say on it. And they ruled that no matter how the biological material was obtained, whether it was like with consent or not, once they if he discarded it, if he left it at the hospital and he didn't take it with him, then it was no longer his property.
So when you give or have material taken, according to this court, you should be like, okay, are you done testing? Because I want it back.
That's mine now.
I want the goo.
I want
whatever
give me the
goo you came out of my body.
Well, the thing that I
back.
think is crazy in this case is that like he signed a form that gave them permission to dispose of it by incineration. Like it feels like it's very clear that's like that's what I told you could do. I didn't tell you could take it and then do wacky science.
It literally says get rid of it when you're done helping me specifically.
Yeah. And then it is a thing that will be destroyed. But they were like, no, it's not. And so they ruled that like once you left it, it was kind of officially waste, and the doctors could choose to turn your discarded matter into treasure if they wanted to. And it was only the like work of the scientists that made it valuable. So the court did rule in Moore's favor on the grounds of lack of informed consent and a breach of fiduciary duty and violating patient trust.
Okay.
So he did not receive any profits from share profits from this big deal that was being made over his cell line. But the courts did make a requirement that doctors needed to disclose any financial interest or biological matter to allow them to make informed choices on whether or not to allow the use of their
That's good at
stuff.
least.
So it did kind of move the needle a little bit. But again, it's
a slow
slog. But also, there are 3 cases now that have paid out in favor of the Lax estate. Mm-hmm. But all of them were settled outside of court. So there is something about this case that I think is important because they took it all the way to trial.
There's
and then
actual
to appeals,
precedent,
and then they pushed it all the way up.
Look
and
it
then
up, but it's there.
Yeah, judicial precedent was made here, even though it's not what we could have wanted, but it is moving the needle further.
Yeah. And it probably having any kind of precedent or law might make a doctor or researcher or scientist less inclined to be like, I'll just do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Because no one's paying attention to me.
Right. Yeah. And it kind of awakened some doctors' understanding of that it is a gray area as opposed to just very cut and dry. I was talking to Sarah and she was like, I think that kids that are going to medical school should probably read this book. And we were talking about how it would be a really good introduction into the idea of whether or not you should have autonomy over the how your body is used.
Yeah, and I think that patients being people is something that not obviously I can't speak for the medical field, and a lot of people get into it to be altruistic and to help people, but there are people that get into it just because their mind is scientific. Yep. They want to make advances. They want to do research. They want to be recognized. They want to make money. There are people who are in it to do the science of it. And because they look at the body as a car they can be the mechanic of.
Sure.
And I do think that it's helpful to acknowledge that they're
people. Yeah. And there are a lot of doctors that kind of have to they form detachment because it's hard,
right? It's also emotional to be
but it's also I think
we've all seen Scrubs.
Sure.
we get it, you know what I mean?
I think that the stickiest part of this is because just like the when the family first learned, before they learned about the money of it all, the massive industry of it all,
it was just emotionally confusing.
Then it's just man, this feels weird and bad. But also if it
helped all
good,
these people, she probably would like knowing that if she knew. Yeah.
But the fact that our society just has such connection to vast amounts of wealth being created off of
and
these
wealth
things,
disparity
and pharmaceutical testing and medical testing and all of this stuff,
and the fact that her family can't afford and aren't providing good health care.
Yeah, and they had a hard life, and they're if they had just any piece of this, it would have been.
I think I'm safe to say more than one person owns a boat because of these cells.
Oh yes, many boats,
and they
are
can't
owned.
go to the doctor.
And they can't go to the doctor.
The boat ratio,
it's way too high.
It's too disparate. Yeah,
way too high. And one of the things in this court case, they were we feel as if Mr. Moore should have ownership over his. But if we ruled that way, then it would take away the financial incentive for people to do research, and therefore limit the ability to make medical advancements. And I'm just can't we do both? Like, can't we like find a way to, incentivize people to do this research and then not need it to purely be like rabid
Financial
capitalism?
and-
Like, I don't know. This is gross.
We're gonna solve it, you guys.
Yeah.
We're gonna fix it. We're gonna
One
figure it out.
podcast at a time. Yeah, so this is a bit short. It's not as short as I thought it was going to be, but it is.
It never is.
It is. It is a shorter episode. But I think that's where we're going to leave it for tonight/today, depending
Eat
on when
after
you're listening
dark.
to this bad
It's
boy.
almost midnight.
Oh dear God. But next week we're going to go ahead and wrap this whole thing up, put a bow on it.
Okay, and then
On to Emily's topic.
yeah,
You got any teasers?
I don't. The one big hint I feel like I could give would ruin it. I will say that the book that I'm reading, I have the Kindle and the audiobook because that's what I like to do. I like to listen and then go back. The reader has a very intense Irish brogue, and I'm struggling a little with paying attention to this because it's not even so much that he has a brogue; it's that he's like trying to narrate it in this folksy way, and it's like a very serious topic.
So it's not about the Lucky Charms guy?
No, I'll just spoil it because I want to. So it's about the potato famine.
Got it.
And I learned today that for a brief period, there was something called the potato triumvirate.
Oh,
which was three
that is
people
an intense thing.
Trying to solve the famine, and they named them the potato triumvirate, and they were not successful. But I love that as a phrase.
Yeah,
and it's a very interesting story, and it's not so much like the book. The reason I kind of got interested in the topic was the book came out, and the descriptor of the book was like, yes, we all kind of are familiar with the concept of the famine, but this is really dealing with how England helped and didn't help, and why they did what they did, and why some of it was financially manipulative.
It's less
against the Irish. It's less like a history and more like how did this unfold.
Well, and it's less like a freak nature thing happening where like because it feels like the Dust Bowl, which the Dust Bowl happened because of money and bad stuff too.
Not planting enough trees.
Not
crop rotation.
Crop rotation, but like I think. Because I've learned a little bit about this book while you've been talking about it, and it's also just kind of popped up in my the zeitgeist lately. But it's less a thing that it's just like, oh, there was a sickness of the potatoes, but it was because the potatoes were the only thing that the British left in Ireland.
If you literally only have one thing to eat and then that thing is gone, it's a problem.
Yeah, but all of the other food was being shipped out and sold.
Yeah. Okay, spoiler. But I won't be doing an Irish brogue because I'm very bad at it for the episode.
Do you want to do a Boston brogue? And
fucking maybe kid. I don't know. It's not a brogue when it's fucking Boston kid, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
Fucking whatever.
Whatever, kid.
Yeah. So that'll be after this. But one more episode of Henrietta.
Yeah.
And to our new listeners, of which there are some, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Go back, experience other series. Listen to us when we were slightly less sleepy, but also listen to us now. Write a review. If
learn about bananas if you want.
If every new listener, I've said this before, I say it again. If every new listener that we acquired over the past month left us a review, it would literally change our lives. So think about that. If you want, we would appreciate it. If not, I get it. I am also a person who says I'm going to get to that, and then I don't. But either way, thank you guys for listening so much. We enjoy making the show for you, and we will talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening, and a big thanks to Carsey Blanton for the theme music. You can follow the podcast everywhere at Yeet the Rich Pod. You can email us your suggestions for future episodes at yeettherichpod@gmail.com. You can follow me at TheFunnyWalsh, and you can follow Danny at DMoss315. See you next week.